A man, absolutely plastered, stumbled up to a fairground rifle range and slapped some money on the counter. The booth operator hesitated, worried that letting a drunk handle a firearm might not be the best idea. But after some slurred insistence, the man was handed a rifle. Swaying on his feet, he took aim, well, sort of, and fired 3 shots. To everyone's shock, all 3 hit dead center. The top prize was a fancy 68-piece glassware set, but the showman, convinced the drunk had no clue what he'd just done, handed him a consolation prize instead: a turtle. The man shrugged and staggered off into the crowd. An hour later, even more intoxicated, he returned. Again, the booth operator hesitated, but again, the drunk insisted. 3 shots later, 3 bullseyes. Another turtle. Then, for a third time, he returned, barely able to stand, but still demanding another go. The same routine played out. 3 shots, 3 perfect hits. But this time, a sharp-eyed onlooker spoke up. "Hold on a second, that's 3 bullseyes. He won the star prize." The showman, cursing his luck, made a big show of inspecting the target before sighing and announcing, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. Sir, you've won this magnificent 68-piece glassware set." The drunk squinted at him, confused. "Glassware? I don't want any bloody glasses. Just give me another one of those crunchy meat pies." A man walks into a bar and says, "A beer for me, a beer for you, and a beer for everyone here." The bartender, pleased with the generosity, pours the drinks. But when it's time to pay, the man shrugs and says, "I don't have any money." Furious, the bartender beats him up and tosses him onto the street. The next night, the same man walks in and repeats, "A beer for me, a beer for you, and a beer for everyone here." The bartender hesitates but figures he wouldn't pull the same stunt twice. He must have the money this time. So, he serves the drinks. When the man finishes and heads for the door, the bartender yells, "Hey, what about the bill?" "I don't have any money." Once again, the bartender pounds him and throws him out. The following night, the man limps back into the bar. "A beer for me and a beer for everyone here." The bartender glares. "What? No beer for me this time?" "Nah," the man replies. "You get violent when you drink." 3 biker buddies are sitting in a bar when a heavily intoxicated man stumbles in, orders a drink, and scans the room. Spotting the 3 bikers in the corner, he staggers over and leans on their table. He locks eyes with the biggest biker and slurs, "I was at your grandma's house earlier. Saw her completely naked in the hallway. Damn, she's fine." The biker says nothing. His buddies exchange confused glances. Guys have been knocked out cold for less. The drunk leans in closer. "Not only that, I had my way with her. Best I've ever had." Still, the biker doesn't react, though his friends are now visibly angry. Undeterred, the drunk smirks. "And let me tell you, your grandma loved it." At last, the biker sighs, stands up, and shakes his head. "Damn it, Grandpa, you're drunk again. Go home." A guy walks into a bar, spots a massive jar on the counter stuffed with $10 bills, and figures there must be at least 10 grand inside. Curious, he asks the bartender, "What's with the jar full of cash?" The bartender smirks. "Simple. You pay $10, and if you pass 3 tests, you win all the money. And the keys to a brand new Lexus." The guy raises an eyebrow. "What are the 3 tests?" "Gotta pay first. Those are the rules." After mulling it over, the guy hands over a $10 bill. The bartender drops it into the jar and lays out the challenge. First, you have to chug a full quart of tequila in under a minute without making a face. Second, out back, there's a pit bull with a rotten tooth. You have to pull it out with your bare hands. Third, upstairs there's a 90-year-old woman who's never been with a man. You have to take care of that problem. The guy's jaw drops. "Are you insane? There's no way I'm doing that." "Your call," says the bartender. "But the money stays." Hours pass, and after a few too many drinks, the guy slams his glass down. "All right, where's that damn tequila?" Grabbing the bottle, he downs it in 58 seconds, tears streaming, face twitching, but never breaking. The bar erupts in cheers. Then he stumbles toward the back door. The moment he steps outside, the bar is filled with the sounds of growling, snarling, yelping, and blood-curdling screams. Then, silence. Just as people start fearing the worst, the man staggers back inside, clothes torn, bleeding, covered in scratches, and gasping for breath. He wipes his mouth, looks around, and slurs, "All right, now where's that old lady with the bad tooth?" A guy walks into a bar with his dog and says, "I'll have a scotch and water, and my dog will have a whiskey sour." The bartender frowns. "Sorry, no animals allowed." The dog sighs. "Oh, come on. First, no dogs on the couch. Now, no dogs in bars. This is discrimination. Just get me a drink." The bartender rolls his eyes. "Great, another ventriloquist with the old talking dog trick. Both of you, out." "No tricks, I swear," the man insists. "Tell you what, I'll step outside for a walk and you can talk to Gizmo yourself." The man leaves, and the bartender watches him turn the corner. The dog leans in. "So, about that whiskey sour?" The bartender is stunned. "You really can talk. Tell you what, drinks are on the house. In fact, do me a favor. My wife works next door at the cafe. She'd love this. Go in and order a coffee. Here's $10, keep the change." "Deal," says the dog, snatching the money and trotting out the door. 10 minutes pass. No sign of the dog. The owner returns and asks, "Where's Gizmo?" Both rush outside and spot Gizmo in the alley, going at it hot and heavy with a French poodle. "Gizmo!" the owner yells. "What the hell are you doing? You've never done this before." The dog shrugs. "Yeah, well, I've never had money before." An Irishman walks into a bar in Dublin, orders 3 pints of Guinness, and takes a seat at the back. He sips each one in turn until they're empty, then returns to the bar for another round. The bartender, curious, says, "You know, a pint goes flat once it's poured. It'd taste better if you ordered them one at a time." The Irishman smiles. "Ah, but you see, I have 2 brothers. One in America, the other in Australia. When we all left home, we promised to drink this way to remember the days we drank together. So I have one for each of me brothers, and one for meself." The bartender nods. "That's a fine tradition." From then on, the Irishman becomes a regular, always ordering 3 pints and drinking them the same way. One evening, he walks in and orders only 2 pints. The bar falls silent. The regulars exchange uneasy glances. When he returns for his second round, the bartender leans in and says gently, "I don't mean to intrude, but I just wanted to offer my condolences for your loss." The Irishman looks confused for a moment, then bursts out laughing. "Oh no, everybody's fine. It's just that me wife had us join the Baptist church, so I had to quit drinking. Hasn't affected me brothers, though." A newly ordained priest was so nervous during his first mass that he could barely speak. Afterward, he asked the Monsignor for advice. The Monsignor smiled and said, "Before I go up to the pulpit, I keep a glass of vodka next to my water. If I get nervous, I take a small sip." Taking the advice to heart, the young priest prepared for his next mass. As soon as he started feeling anxious, he took a drink, then another. Before long, he was delivering the sermon with fiery enthusiasm. After the service, he returned to his office and found a note on his door. "Father, a few pointers for next time. Sip the vodka, don't chug it. There are 10 commandments, not 12. There are 12 disciples, not 10. Jesus was consecrated, not constipated. Jacob wagered his donkey. He did not bet his ass. David slew Goliath. He did not kick the crap out of him. We do not refer to the cross as the big T. At the Last Supper, Jesus said, "Take this and eat, for it is my body, not eat me." The Virgin Mary is not to be called Mary with the cherry. The proper blessing before a meal is not rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the grub, yay God. Next Sunday, there will be a taffy pulling contest at St. Peter's, not a Peter pulling contest at St. Taffy's. And finally, never refer to Jesus and the disciples as JC and the boys. A newlywed couple had been married for just 2 weeks when the husband, still madly in love, started feeling the itch to go out and party with his old buddies. "Honey, I'll be right back," he said casually. "Where are you going, Coochie Coo?" his wife asked sweetly. "Just to the bar, pretty face. Gonna have a beer." She smiled. "You want a beer, my love?" Before he could answer, she swung open the fridge, revealing 25 different brands of beer from 12 different countries: Germany, Holland, Japan, India, you name it. The husband hesitated. Yeah, lollipop, but at the bar, they have frozen glasses." Without missing a beat, she pulled a massive mug from the freezer, so frosty it sent chills up her arm. "You mean like this, puppy face?" His face paled. Yes, but at the bar, you know, they have those amazing hors d'oeuvres." She grinned. "You want hors d'oeuvres, Poochie Poo?" She opened the oven and pulled out 5 trays of bar snacks: chicken wings, pigs in blankets, mushroom caps, pork strips, the works. Now sweating, he stammered, "But my sweet honey, at the bar there's swearing, dirty words, and all that." She leaned in close, smiled sweetly, and whispered, "You want dirty words, sweetie pie? Then drink your bloody beer in your damn frozen mug, eat your stupid snacks, because you're married now and you're not going anywhere. Got it, moron." Game over. A guy walks into a bar and orders a beer. "That'll be $1, says the bartender. The guy blinks. $1? That's cheap." He takes a sip, and it's fantastic. So he decides to test his luck. "Bartender, I'll have your finest wine." The bartender goes through the full ritual, showing the bottle, opening it, letting it breathe, before pouring it into a fine crystal glass. "That'll be 50 cents, he says. Now the guy is completely baffled. "All right, screw it. Give me a whole bottle of your best scotch." The bartender hands him a pristine bottle and says, "Here, on the house." At this point, curiosity gets the better of him. "Look, where's the owner?" he asks. The bartender smirks. "Upstairs with my wife." Shocked, the guy stammers, "Wait, what's he doing up there with your wife?" The bartender leans in and says, "The same thing I'm doing to his business." A duck walks into a pub and orders a beer and a ham sandwich. The barman stares and says, "But you're a duck." "I see your eyes work," replies the duck. "And you talk," exclaims the barman. "I see your ears work too," says the duck. "Now, can I have my beer and sandwich, please?" Shaking his head, the barman serves the duck. "Sorry, we just don't get many ducks in here." "What are you doing around this way?" "I'm working on the building site across the road," explains the duck. This goes on for 2 weeks. The duck comes in every day for a beer and a sandwich. Then one day, the circus comes to town. The ringleader stops by the pub, and the barman excitedly says, "Hey, I know a duck who'd be perfect for your circus. He talks, drinks beer, the whole lot." "Sounds amazing," says the ringleader. "Tell him to give me a call." The next day, when the duck comes in, the barman grins. "Hey, Mr. Duck, I found you a top job. Great pay." "Yeah," says the duck. "Where?" "At the circus." "The circus?" the duck asks. "Yep." "That place with the big tent?" "That's the one." "With all the animals?" "Of course." "With the big canvas roof and the hole in the middle?" "Yeah." The duck frowns. What the heck would they want with a plasterer? Noah and Frank stumbled out of a bar after a long night of drinking and climbed into Noah's car. Noah started it up, and off they went. A few minutes down the road, there was a light tap on the passenger window. Frank turned his head and screamed, "Noah! There's an old ghost's face at the window!" Panicked, Noah hit the gas, but the face stayed right there. Frank, trembling, rolled the window down just a crack and stammered, "What do you want?" The old man calmly asked, "Got any tobacco?" Frank, terrified, shoved a cigarette through the gap and yelled, "Step on it, Noah!" as he quickly rolled the window back up. They sped ahead, eventually catching their breath and laughing nervously. "I don't know what that was," Noah said, "but don't worry, we're doing 80 now." Just then, tap, tap, tap. "Oh no, he's back!" Frank screamed. Shaking, he cracked the window open again. Yeah? The old man asked softly. "Got a light?" Frank threw a lighter out the window and shrieked, "Noah, floor it!" Now flying down the road at 100 miles an hour, they tried to calm down when suddenly, tap, tap, tap. Frank nearly jumped out of his seat. "Oh my God, what now?" he yelled as he rolled the window down. The old man gently said, "You boys need a hand getting out of the mud?" A man and his friend were out to lunch, and the man was enthusiastically explaining his deep dive into healthy eating. "After all," he said, "you are what you eat." He sat down with a salad, a light vinaigrette, and an unsweetened green tea, while his friend chowed down on a fried chicken sandwich, a large Coke, and a mountain of salty fries. As they were about to eat, the man realized he forgot a fork. While he was away, his mischievous friend grinned and dumped a generous amount of salt into his tea. The man returned, took a sip, and immediately gagged, spitting tea across the table. "What the hell did you do to my tea?" he demanded. His friend smirked and shrugged. "Didn't you say you are what you eat?" The man's angry expression softened into pure disappointment as his friend added, "Guess that makes you a little salty." Jacob sat in the school hallway, bored out of his mind. When his teacher walked by, he grinned and asked, "How do you put an elephant in a fridge?" Amused, the teacher replied, "I don't know. How?" Jacob said, "Easy. You open the door and put it in." The teacher chuckled as Jacob continued, "All right, next question. How do you put a giraffe in the fridge?" The teacher smirked. I got this one. You open the door and put it in." Jacob shook his head. "Nope. First, you take the elephant out. Then you put the giraffe in." The teacher laughed. Okay, what's next?" Jacob grinned. All the animals went to the tiger's birthday party, except one. Which one was it? A man brought his 4-year-old son to the doctor, visibly stressed and exasperated. He said, "Doctor, you won't believe what's happened. My son, he's only 4 years old, and he got the housemaid pregnant." The doctor, completely shocked, asked, "Wait, what? How on earth could that happen?" The man sighed, looked at his son, and explained, "Well, this little troublemaker poked holes in all my condoms with a needle." In feudal Japan, 2 powerful samurai families were locked in an endless cycle of war. The bloodshed seemed destined to continue, until one day, the eldest sons of both clans met in secret. Determined to end the conflict once and for all, they made a bold decision. They would settle things in a duel to the death. The winner would bring glory to his family, and the losing clan would be forced to leave the land forever. The night before the duel, one father approached his son. "Why must it come to this?" he asked. "Surely there's another way." But his son was resolute. "I cannot bear this war any longer," he replied. "Besides, I am the stronger warrior. I have studied my opponent's every move. I know his weaknesses, his patterns. My disarming technique is flawless. Victory is certain." He meditated through the night, visualizing every strike and counter. By morning, he was ready. At the arena, the two warriors faced each other. They bowed low in respect. Then, in a sudden flash of steel, the duel began. Sparks flew as their blades clashed, a breathtaking display of skill and precision. They were evenly matched. Then, the older samurai saw his moment. With a perfectly executed strike, he severed his opponent's sword hand. Victory was his. Or so he thought. In an instant, the younger fighter's sword spun in midair, and with a final devastating slice, both of the older warrior's legs were severed. He collapsed to the ground in a crimson spray. Without hesitation, the younger samurai retrieved his sword with his left hand and delivered a swift, merciful final blow. Later, as the clan leaders gathered to sign the peace treaty, the fallen warrior's father approached the victor. "I hold no hatred toward you," he said solemnly. "You fought with honor. My only regret is my son's foolishness. He was supposed to be the greatest samurai of his time." The younger samurai sighed and replied, "He was indeed a skilled warrior, but while he focused on disarming me, I was focused on defeating him." 3 kingdoms shared a lake, and for centuries they had waged war over the island at its center. Tired of the endless conflict, they finally agreed to settle the matter once and for all in a grand battle. The first kingdom was wealthy and sent an army of 25 knights, each accompanied by 3 squires. The night before the battle, the knights celebrated, jousting, feasting, and making merry, while their squires polished armor, cooked meals, and sharpened weapons. The second kingdom, less affluent, sent only 10 knights, each with 2 squires. Their knights also celebrated, though with slightly less extravagance, while their squires dutifully prepared for battle. The third kingdom was impoverished, and could spare only 1 elderly knight and a single squire. With no luxury to indulge in, the knight quietly sharpened his sword while his squire, using a noosed rope, hoisted a pot over the fire to cook their meager meal before tending to the knight's armor. At dawn, the battle commenced. However, the knights of the first 2 kingdoms had overindulged the night before. Too much cavorting while sharpening weapons had left them unfit to fight. The squire of the third kingdom, despite his best efforts, couldn't wake his elderly knight in time. With the knights out of commission, the squires were left to wage the battle themselves. The clash raged on for hours, with squires battling fiercely on all sides. When the dust finally settled, a lone figure emerged from the battlefield, beaten, bloodied, but victorious. It was the squire from the third kingdom, and thus it was proven once and for all. The squire of the high pot and noose is equal to the sum of the squires of the other 2 sides. Little Johnny's class was in for something different that day. The teacher announced, "We're going to play a little game to help us get to know each other better and practice our spelling. I want each of you to stand up, tell us your father's occupation, spell it, and say one thing he would give us all if he were here today." Marcy eagerly raised her hand. "Go ahead, Marcy," the teacher said. Marcy stood up proudly. "My father is a banker, Banker. If he were here today, he'd give us all a shiny new penny." "Very nice, Marcy," the teacher said. "Who's next?" Kevin stood up. "My father is a baker, Baker. If he were here today, he'd give us all a freshly baked cookie." "Excellent, Kevin," the teacher praised. Then Jeff got up. "My father is an accountant. ACK. Before he could continue, the teacher gently said, "Why don't you sit down, Jeff? Take a moment to think about it, and when you're ready, you can try again." Just then, little Johnny shot his hand up, grinning ear to ear. The teacher hesitated, then sighed. "All right, Johnny, go ahead." Johnny stood up confidently. "My dad is a bookie, Bookie. And if he were here today, he'd give us all 20-to-1 odds that Jeff will never spell accountant correctly." Two prawns, Justin and Christian, were swimming in the ocean, constantly on edge as sharks prowled nearby. One day, Justin had had enough. "I'm sick of living in fear," he said. "I wish I were a shark. Then I wouldn't have to worry about being eaten all the time." Just then, in a shimmer of light, a mysterious cod appeared. "Your wish is granted," the cod declared. And with that, Justin transformed into a fearsome shark. Christian was horrified and bolted, terrified that his old friend would now see him as lunch. At first, Justin relished his new power, but he soon realized being a shark was lonely. His old friends no longer trusted him. Every time he approached, they swam away in fear. He couldn't even get a friendly wave from a passing crab. Days turned into weeks, and Justin grew miserable. Then, one day, he spotted the mysterious cod again. Desperate, he pleaded, "Please, turn me back into a prawn. I miss my old life." The cod nodded, and, with a flash, Justin was a prawn once more. Overjoyed, he swam straight to Christian's home. Memories of their friendship filled his heart as he knocked excitedly on the coral gate. "Christian, it's me, Justin. I'm back." From inside, Christian called out, "No way! You're a shark now. You'll just eat me." Justin shook his head and shouted, "No, really! That was the old me. I've changed. I've found cod. I'm a prawn again, Christian." For years, Frank experienced the same mysterious pain. Every day, like clockwork, at 8:50 a.m. and 8:50 p.m., his knees or elbows would start to ache. At first, he brushed it off, just a part of getting older, he figured. But as the years went by, the pain never stopped. It didn't get worse. It didn't get better. It just persisted. After 5 years, he couldn't ignore it anymore. He went from doctor to doctor, seeking answers. Tests, scans, prescriptions. Nothing helped. Desperate, he turned to alternative medicine. Acupuncture, herbal remedies, even those shady miracle treatments he saw online. Still nothing. Out of options, he resorted to the kind of doctors who hand out pills like Halloween candy. But even they couldn't help. The pain remained. Twice a day. Every single day. At his wit's end, Frank found himself in a grimy back-alley clinic. The kind of place where the diplomas on the wall were probably bought online. The doctor, a sleazy-looking man in a stained lab coat, slouched in his chair, a filterless cigarette dangling from his lips. He had been suspended multiple times, sued, and lost every lawsuit. But at this point, Frank was willing to try anything. Sitting on the exam table in a thin paper gown, Frank pleaded, "Doctor, every single day at 8:50, I'm in pain. The best doctors in the state can't figure out what's wrong with me. Please, help me." The doctor looked him up and down, took a long drag from his cigarette, then exhaled a cloud of smoke. He leaned in, squinting. Finally, he said, "It's simple. You have 10 to 90s. A few decades ago, a restaurant put up a bold sign. "We'll serve you anything you want. If we can't, we'll give you $5,000. A skeptical man passing by thinks, "Yeah, right," and decides to call their bluff. He walks in, takes a seat, and a waiter approaches. Waiter, "Good evening, sir. What would you like to eat?" Man, "I'll have an elephant's ear and a muffin." The waiter doesn't even blink. "One moment, please." He heads to the kitchen. The man smirks. They've got to be panicking back there, but a few minutes later the waiter returns, looking only mildly concerned. Waiter, "Apologies, sir, but just to clarify, what kind of elephant would you like the ear from?" The man freezes. Wait, they're actually entertaining this? Man, an Indian elephant? Waiter, "Excellent choice." He disappears into the kitchen again. A minute later, the waiter returns. Waiter, "And which side did you prefer, left or right?" Now the man is sweating bullets. Left. Waiter. Splendid. Off he goes. At this point, the man is terrified. How much is this going to cost me? 5 minutes later, the waiter comes back, holding a silver platter and $5,000 in cash. Waiter. Here's your money, sir. Apologies, we're out of muffins.